Good afternoon or good morning, colleagues, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Elizabeth Dilley, and I'm the Minister and Team Leader for the Ministerial Excellence Support and Authorization, or MESA, ministry team here at the National Setting of the United Church of Christ. I am so glad to welcome all of you here today for an opportunity to tour the new UCC Ministerial Profiles portal. I just want to make a note, this was a broad invitation sent to all of our authorized ministers who have accounts in the system. So I expect that you are here because you have some sort of interest in learning about the new profile system. There is no assumption that your presence here means that you are in search and call. All it means is, you know, there's a new ministerial profiles portal system, you want to learn about it. So I'm really glad that you're here today. We are recording this conversation. That's why part of why I wanted to make that point really clear. Throughout the training, you will have an opportunity either to ask questions in the chat, or we'll take questions at the end through the chat or through raising your hand. And we'll be delighted to do so. I believe that I am joined here by my colleagues from the MESA team, the Reverend Jeff Nelson, our Minister for Ministerial Calls and Transitions, and Mr. Daryl Ludwig, our Profiles Administrator. We are so excited to be here with you all today. We're also very happy to be doing this training on week 2, when many of the initial things that we thought worked perfectly didn't quite work as well as planned. We've got most of those things figured out by now. If, for example, on the first day of the new system, if you logged in and saw your country code was set to Afghanistan, that has automatically been changed back to the United States, as it should be. We are delighted, however, to be doing this training with our partners on this project, Saran Systems. Saran Systems is a fantastic company who has shepherded us through this process of the new profiles portal. As you've seen in our emails, this portal was not a content shift, but just a shift to a more different digital platform. So we did not do any changes to what needs to go in the profile or that sort of thing. And as you tour the profile system today, you as ministers will have the opportunity also to see some of the ways that we hope this process will be improved for you. I'm going to hand it back now to Alex Clay, the CEO of Saran Systems. He'll say a little bit more and introduce his team, and then we'll just go ahead and dive in.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I appreciate the introduction, and it's our great pleasure to be with you here this afternoon. I am the CEO of Saran Systems. We've developed the platform for the new UCC Profiles portal. This is not completely unfamiliar terrain to us, as we have provided the platform for search and call within the Christian Church Disciples of Christ since the mid-90s. So we are very thrilled to be able to partner with the UCC and are looking forward to everything that we brought to bear today, as well as some exciting new functionality that's coming out in the months ahead. Joining with me today from Saran is Chris Widener, who will be moderating the questions at the end. If you have a question that you would like us to answer, maybe anonymously, you can send a direct message through the chat to Chris, and he'll be happy to answer that at the end. We'll do a Q&A after the presentation. You can use the reactions in Zoom to use the raise hand button, and that will let us unmute you, and you can ask your question. We'll hope to answer that. There is a chat, and you can ask questions along the way, but I do encourage everyone to watch the presentation in its entirety first, and hopefully your question will be answered as we go along. My other colleague with me is Terry Hatmaker, who will be actually taking us on a tour of the system. This is targeted towards ministerial staff who are, or users who are looking up to update your snapshot, perhaps go into circulation, or just as Elizabeth said, get a sense for the platform. So at this point, I'll go ahead and turn the presentation over to Terry. He'll give us a walkthrough, and then we'll dive into any questions we have, and hopefully we should be wrapped up before the end of the hour. And again, thank you all so much for the opportunity to spend this time with you.
Welcome, everybody. We are going to get started today, and I'm going to go from the absolute beginning. And so this email that is up on the screen right now is a representation of what you might have received. In there, you'll see your username, and that's something you'll want to make sure that you write down and keep. And then there will be a link right below that, and you can click here. And what this will do, it will open up Engage to a window where you can enter a new password. So I'm going to enter a new password here. And you can see that password has been set. And now, rather than having to go and log in myself with putting in a username and password, I can click the login button and it will log me into the new system. And this brings us to the homepage of the UCC portal. Now, we're going to go through all of the items that are on this page here, but these items that you are seeing here are only those specific items for a minister. What we're going to do is we're going to start in the upper left-hand corner, and we're going to look at this area in the blue bar at the top. And this is where you'll see the name and the logo for the UCC. But the important thing here that I want to point out is you'll also see which page you're on. So like in this instance, we're on the home page, so it says home. Every page you're in, you can always look up at the left-hand corner and see where you are in the portal. If you slide over to the right, see the navigation menu, and then over here, this is what you would see in the menu. You would see that you have your personal profile and the optional demographics, snapshot, and geographic availability. I'll go back and turn on the search and call fields again a little bit later so you can see how to do that and see what happens. So let's stay on the home page and let's look over here at the personal profile. Here in the personal profile, you see you have a photo, your name, your location, and your email address. If you need to make any changes, you can click on Edit Personal Profile. Now, when you edit your profile, in the upper left-hand corner is where you can edit your name as well as the photo. Under the name area, the only option that you have that you can actually change here is a preferred name. So in this case, David prefers Dave. So I can put a preferred name of Dave, and then I can update that. And the changes were saved. And now you can see his preferred name in parentheses. In addition, you can see the preferred name in the navigation bar at the navigation menu up in the upper right. In addition, if you want to put a new photo in or clear out your existing, all you do is click clear. That clears out that photo. And then I can go back into edit. And if I'm on a mobile phone or a tablet that has the ability to take pictures, you could actually click and upload a real-time photo of yourself in the portal itself. In my case, I don't have that kind of device, so I have to choose a file. So I'm going to click on Choose, and I'm going to select File here, and there's the photo, and I'll click Upload. Now that's been uploaded, and it's saving, and now you see the new photo here and the new photo there. In addition to being able to set a photo or a preferred name, you can also update and change your address. If you click on the Edit button in this block, all of these fields are modifiable. So you can come in here and let's just say I have a OCD that I like to see things written out. So instead of DR, I'm going to put drive. And I'm going to say, well, my zip code was wrong, and I'll make that update. And now I just click on update. It will update that information. and then you can see it in the address block. Now, over to your right, we have phones and emails. With phones and emails in our system, the email is different than in the previous system. In that system, you had one email address per account. In our system, you can have as many emails associated with one account. So right now in here, you see that there are 2 email addresses that are associated with this account. If you need to make, this, you're going to have to, let me step back here. You're going to need to determine, if you have more than one, which one is going to be your primary email address. And by what I mean by that is, this is the address that communication will be done when you're in search and call. So I could come in here and click on edit, and now I can change any of this information. I can make this one primary, and because there are 2 email addresses, I can click delete and delete one of them if I want to. In this case, I'm going to make this one primary and say yes. Now I'll update it. Now the primary label is on this email address, and it's moved from that. In addition to editing a email, you can also add additional emails, or you can add additional phones. So I can click on add phone, and let's say I have a business phone number that I want to add. So I select the phone type as business, and then I click add. Here you don't have to select a primary phone. The last portion of this page that we'll be concerned with here is this section that says, I prefer to be contacted by. This section is required, and this is just lets the conference staff know how you prefer to be contacted. So in my case, I have selected email address, but I could have selected mailing using the address, or phone call by choosing phone. When you've gone through and verified all this information and made any updates you need, you can now go back to your home page by just going up to the navigation menu and clicking home. And this brings us back to our home page. Now I want to move over to the snapshot area, and you see 3 different headers underneath this. Each of these subsections are related to the snapshot. The first one is how you're going to edit your snapshot. The second one's the visibility, and the third one is geographic availability. As you see, there's also different colors with respect to these headers. A green header means that this information has been added and it's ready. The yellow means there's information that's still needed. Okay, so let's go into snapshot. Let's edit our snapshot. Now, as you can see, on the left-hand side, I have 4 sections. Of these 4 sections, 3 of the sections have a check mark, but this 4th section doesn't. Okay, so this section needs to be filled out. So the authorization is required. So I'm going to click ordained. And then you also need to put in your standing and what conference. So I go down here and then I select the conference I want that I have standing in and the association. When I have that done, I can click one of these 3 buttons down here. If I click save and go back, I'm going to go back to the home page because I'm on the first section of the snapshot. If I click save and quit, I go back to the home page. If I click save and continue, I move to the next section, which would be availability. So I'm just going to click save and continue so that you can see what's under these and how you use them. So in the availability, you can select as many of these options as you want that are related to your ministry. So pastoral ministries, wider church or specialized ministries, you can select local church staff, if you want to volunteer in any of them, if you're available for full-time and or part-time, when you want to start. Well, I had here to start on the 6th of February. Well, that's changed. So now I'm in a new field, and it's a calendar field. My date has changed to now I'm going to be available in January. I can just click one of these arrows to go to January, or I can click the little drop down here. And what it does is it brings up February 2022. Then I can select the month of January and then the day that I will be available. So I'm going to be available on the 9th of January now. And I'm considering these two areas and this type of congregation. Once I have that done, I can click Save and Continue. And now I'm in Gifts and Talents. So in this page, we are introduced again to another field, and these are list boxes. These list boxes here for languages, on the left-hand side, are all the options you have available that's been put into the system. I'm going to select English, and when I click on English, it moves over to the box on the right. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to select Russian, and I'll go back and get German. So I could have as many languages as I want to use in the ministry if I have that ability. If I need to remove one, let's say I want to remove Russian, I just come over to the right-hand side, click Russian, and now that language is moved back over to the left-hand list box. If there are any languages that are not available in the list above, you can add them here in this text box below it. In addition to languages, you also have some list boxes for skills. And you see that we already have some skills selected, and we have this table here. What I've done is it's the same process as in language. I come down this page and I look for things that are related to my skills. And so pastoral care and counseling, I click on that, and again, it moves it to the right. At the same time it moves it to the right, it adds it to the table above. And so I can click as many of these as I want. And in either case, I can select all skills, but if I do, then I have all of these checkboxes that I need to go through. Now, let's just say I need to go up here and I need to fill out for pastoral care and pulpit supply if it's a passion, a demonstrated experience, or credential. Well, with respect to pastoral counseling, we're going to select all three. And then in pulpit supply, we will just put demonstrative experience. If there are if you have skills that are not listed in the box above, you can again enter them into this text box. One thing to say about these text boxes is that you do have some formatting capabilities, such as bold and italic and underline, indenting, outdenting, as well as bullets and numbers. At the bottom left of every box that has a limit of characters set on that box, you will see the number of characters remaining. So in this case, this box is limited to 100 characters. And remember that characters will also include spaces and punctuation. The next section is Affinity and Diversity. This section starts off, you see there is a blue box here. Most of our pages will have blue text and blue box, and that's information that you can read regarding that particular section, and it's good to go through that. The next section is ethnic and cultural groups that you identify with, and here you can enter in the information that you want, and the same with cultural competencies. We click on Save and Continue. And now we're at the page for additional comments. Once again, you can fill this out, click Save and Continue. And since we're at the last, it's going to bring us back to the home page since we're at the last section. The next section here is Snapshot Availability. Right now, our snapshot's not available, but I want it to be visible to people. So I'm going to click the toggle link here. It's been updated, and now you see that I have a green header, just like here with Snapshot and Geographic Availability. The last section, Geographic Availability. If you click on Edit here, once again, you see two list boxes here where you can select your conferences that you want to be available for. So I'm going to click a couple of more. Okay, and so again, those conferences move to the box on the right, just like previously. And we'll add Hawaii. And once I do that, above it is a table that's being created. Now, with respect to this table, it is behaving the same way as the table that was over with the skills on your snapshot. But there's an additional functionality here where you could have a number of conferences and you want to select the same item for every conference. Rather than having to go and click on each of these checkboxes, there's a checkbox underneath the header. And if you click on that header checkbox, it will select all of those items. Now, this would be good if you have a lot, but you only have one that you're not interested in having that particular item selected for. So like Florida, I want to uncheck that. Okay. Now I could do that with any of these headings. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to put in some additional items here. And once I have all of that set, scroll down to the bottom and you see a new yellow box here. That is where you're going to say, it'll tell you like the effect of listing conferences above makes your profile downloadable in that conference. So it's telling you what you're doing and why, what's going to happen with that information. So I'm going to click on Save. And now I've got everything with respect to my snapshot filled out, and that's ready to go. One thing before we go in the search and call is to go up to our navigation menu and come down to optional demographics. In here, this section is Authorized Ministry in the UCC pursues the goal of diverse and excellent leadership. Information you enter here will not appear in the snapshot or in the profile. Okay, so the information that you're entering here is just additional information that's not going to be in your snapshot or profile. You can come down through here and you can enter in your race. If your race or ethnicity is not in this list, you again can enter that here. Next section is legal sex and gender, and you enter the sex you want. These are radio buttons, so you select only one. The next section is gender. Here you can select more than one if you want. Pronouns, again, this section you have the ability to select what other pronouns you wish to have. If you have other, you can click other, and then you can add those pronouns here. The next section is your sexual orientation. So I could come in here and I can select as many as I want in this section as well. Next is disability. Here you can say, yes, you're disabled, not currently, or you just choose not to answer. I'm going to select not currently. And last section is birth year. Here you click on the drop down and you'll see that you can set what other birth year. So I'm going to set this to the correct one, 88. And now I'll click Save Changes. Those changes were saved. And it brings us again back to our homepage. So whenever you've completed something and you saved it, Most of the time, it's going to bring you to the home page when you're completed that section. Now, let's move to search and call. One of the differences between this profile portal and the previous is that in order to see the search and call areas, you need to begin the search and call. You need to click the begin search and call. This does not mean that you're beginning the process for circulation, but you may be. If you just want to see your profile and make some edits to it, you need to click on search and call to be able to see that. So if I click on begin search and call, you see that I have 3 sections here. You have background check, minister profile, and references. Each of these are not complete. They're not green headers. And so I know I need to do something in each case. So under background check, it says it's not yet been initiated. So to initiate, you're going to click on edit. And you'll come to the background check window. And again, you can see where I am. Here, you'll want to read this information. This is information regarding Oxford documents and what you will be doing in this process. And then there's information for the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ clergy, as well as United Church of Canada and United Church of Christ Authorized Ministers living in Canada. Read that information. And then when you're ready to initiate your background check, you click on this link right in the middle. That will bring you to your Oxford document website, where you go through here and you can enter that information and process that background check for Oxford documents to begin their investigation. Once you've done that, your process will be initiated. And so if I go back to my home page, so down at the bottom, there's a link to back to home. And we'll wait for that to be initiated. And now we go to minister profile, and we're going to update some of that. Now, some of this I already have filled out like I did in the previous. And you see that there are check marks in all of these. And I've done this purposely so that we don't have to go through and enter text on every single one. But the first section you're going to come to is this section up here with the blue, in the blue box, and it says UCC Ministerial Profile. And upon your consent and confirmation, a validated profile containing 3 references, an ethical self-disclosure statement, and a current criminal background check becomes a ministerial profile. So you want to read this information. And once you read it and understand, you can then hide that information by clicking on the X in the upper left. Okay, now that's hidden, so you have a little bit more room for filling out your profile. The first section here is instructions on filling this out. So I suggest you go through and read this. Once you're done reading it, you click on Save and Continue. Again, these buttons act the same as they did in the snapshot. So I'll click Save and Continue. And this brings me to the contact information page. And on this page, it's similar to the personal profile page, okay, in that it's listing all that information, it's there. You can't make any changes here, but if you do need to make a change, at the top to the right, there is an edit link. If I click on that edit link, it brings me to the personal profile page, the one that we saw when we were doing our snapshot. So once we have any changes made, we can then go back to our profile by going up to the menu. And now you can see that you have search and call here, and I can click on minister profile. Brings me back. You see that this has come back. I'll just click that away. Go back in. I can go back into contact information to see if my changes were made. And then click Save and Continue, and it goes to the next section. Now, with this section, there's some stuff that we need to go through so that you understand the way it works. This top section is where you're a member, what church you're a member of and state, and city and state of that church. This is required to be filled out. Under the Authorized Minister area, you have a number of different options here, different radio buttons. First one's, I'm an ordained minister with full standing in the United Church of Christ. The next one is, I'm an ordained minister partner with and hold full standing in the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. Next, I am an ordained ministerial partner of the United Church of Canada, and I hold full standing in the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. Next one is, I have a privileged call. Next, I'm a commissioned minister. Next, I'm a licensed minister. And if none of those apply, none. Now, if I select none, then under member in discernment, this area is now available for me to click. So if I'm a member in discernment, I just put a check here, and then I need to fill out the conference and the association that I have membership in. If I hold a lay ministerial standing, I would put a check here. And if I've been approved for ordination pending a call, I put a check here. Now, you can submit a profile if you have been approved for ordination pending. So if you are wanting to do that as a member in discernment, you would put a check here. Now, in addition to having a member in discernment as active, you would also see that if you put in commissioned minister, that is available then, or licensed minister. Now, if I put in a privileged call, you can see that member in discernment is not active. You cannot enter any information here. So from privileged call to the top of this section, member in discernment is not an option. We're going to go back, and I'm going to put my radio button here in ordained minister. And here I'm going to need to enter in when I was ordained. And so here in this calendar, now you can see you can move forward or backward. So I'm going to go back and say I was ordained on November 10th, and the conference was Mesa. And with that, I've completed that section. Now, the last section here is any additional ecclesiastical standing. So if you have standing in another denomination, you can put a check in here and then enter in what body you have standing with. In my case, I'm going to leave that unchecked, and I'm going to click Save and Continue. The next section is your verification section. This is indicating that you want to distribute your profile to your conference for validation. If you're conference staff, you would select this one, and it would be through an alternate procedure. Underneath here, you see your standing from Mesa, okay? And once you have that set, you click on Save and Continue. Now, here under ministry essays, you have a reference here for the marks of faithful and effective authorized ministers. You can click this link for more information on this section. In the blue box, you have here, if you are in searching call, prepare your narrative answers to these with call bodies in mind, okay? So you go through each of these sections, that all of these sections are required, and you can enter in as much information as the number of characters it says that you are limited to. Now, one thing you can do is, let's say, rather than typing everything out here, let's say you already have a lot of this information in Microsoft Word, for instance. Well, you can take and copy and paste information from Word directly into these text boxes. So I've got Microsoft Word. I'm here on Word Online. This could be Microsoft Word, just a regular desktop application, but I'm here in the online version of it. I'm going to highlight all of this text, and I'm going to right click and choose copy. Then I come back into the UCC portal, and I right click and choose paste. Now, as you can see, it's brought in all of this information with the same formatting as what I had in Microsoft Word. So this type of formatting could be used in any of the text boxes that you see in the UCC portal. Once you have those sections all filled out, you click Save and Continue. And now we're at the Education Formation for Ministry. The first section is college and graduate information. Here, you enter in whatever college graduate information you have. I've entered 2, and you can see that the most recent is at the top. You have an option on this page that you could fill out information for college and graduate education, or you fill out regional theological educational programs and formative educational experiences. You can fill out both, but only one of these is required. So whichever one you want to fill out, you need to fill out one of those at least. Once you have that information done, you move down to your professional development section and you enter in information on continuing education, about community and church involvement, and any awards, honors, and publications. And then we moved to the next section. And this is vocational history. In this section, you enter in your the information regarding any vocations you've had. You could have as many as you want. So you enter in the first one. And once you have that entered in, you click on Add to enter in the second. So here, the first vocation was at First UCC, or that, I'm sorry, the current one is at First UCC. You can see that the other one I have here is a 2013 to 2015. Again, the most recent is showing at the top. All right, so my current position, and then this is the previous position. And then the section on key accomplishments, you have 3 different sections that are required. And so you're going to put your key accomplishments for each of these sections. These are required. Once you have that information entered, you click Save and Continue. And now you're in the skill sets area. And this is the area from where we developed this in the snapshot. You look at that information, and if you're happy with it, you click Save and Continue. And this is the self-appraisal section. And you're going to have 4 areas that are required for you to fill out. You fill those out and click Save and Continue. This is a supplemental material page and interpreting the history. You have this section and additional comments. You fill those out. Then you can enter in optional web presence. So here you enter in a URL of any web presence that you're associated with. So in this case, I have here fccnox.com. It's a business type. Then if I want to add a third one, I just click Add, but I only have 2 here. And so I also have a personal one for David Burns, and it's a blog. So I can choose the type, okay? And if I have one that I want to set as a primary, I can just put a check in the checkbox for primary. With that, I click on Save and Continue. And this is the interim ministry page. And here I haven't said anything about interim ministry in all of my setup. So this is optional anyway. And so if you want, you can come in here, fill this information out, and make sure you enter in information regarding anything that has required beside it. So if you're available for that and you want, you can just put a check here and then fill this information out. I'm going to leave it unchecked. Now, since I'm not doing anything with that, I don't need to go to the bottom of the page to go to the next section. So I'm just going to come here and click on closing thoughts. Okay, so I made a change and then turned it off. So it's saying, do you want to save those changes? I'm just going to say discard those. And now we're going to go to closing thoughts, enter in that information. Now I'm not sure what happened with that. I know it's not completely filled out. So let's go back to save and go back a page. So see, that's still not checked. And so that's good. So now let's go back to our next page after closing thoughts, and let's go to self-disclosure. So I didn't make any changes on that page anymore, so it didn't ask to save. So I can now go right to the self-disclosure. So you come down through here, every statement is required that you select yes or no. And you go through and select all of those that you want. And once you're okay with any of that information, I click save and continue. Now it's going to come up with an error saying that the explanation section is required because one or more questions have a yes. So I click OK and go up and remind myself which one I selected yes for. And I say, oh, okay, it's this one here. So I come down and I need to enter in information regarding my yes answer to the self-appraisal. So once I'm done, I'm going to click save and continue. And now I get another error that says the explanation section must be 2,000 characters or less. So I come here and I see that in red, I have minus 348 characters. So I'm going to have to come in and I'm going to have to tighten up my text. And so I'm going to tighten it up. And now I'm within the 2,000 and I click save and continue. And then the final section is statement of consent. And so here you'll want to read this information and then you come to your signature. So we'll sign it. And then make sure that you type in your name. With that, you can click save and continue. And now your minister profile is complete. While we were doing this, now the background check has been completed as well. So we have a green header here. So we're only like one section, and that's our references. So if you ever are in a spot and you see this yellow and you're, what is wrong? You know, maybe your profile is yellow. You can come right here just after references and choose, if you see view incomplete steps, you just click on that and it'll tell you what information must be completed in order to get your profile and everything ready for validation. And you just click the link and hide that. So let's go back to references again and open that up. And you can see that I have two references. One here that is, excuse me, is ready to go. You have another one that is still waiting. And then we have a third one that I haven't even sent a request for yet. So in order to send a request, I need to come down here where it says find a reference, and I need to enter in an email address of the person that I want to use as a reference. So I'm going to use Alex as my reference and put in his email and hit search. Well, now it says there's no results. Well, if you're putting in an address and it comes up like that, and you know that it's a good address, it probably means that that person is not in the system yet. And if they're not, there's a link right here at the end of this statement that says click here to contact the new reference. So if I click on this, you see that the email address is automatically populated, and then all I have to do is put in a first name and a last name and then click contact reference. Then that reference will be contacted and they'll be able to fill out their information. This if you are a minister and who does references, we'll be going over the process from the reference perspective on Thursday. In my case, I know I just made an error in the email address. So if I come in and if I correct that and click on search, now Alex's record is showing there is an Alex Clay in the system. And so I just need to click contact reference. And now we see that Alex Clay has been contacted, but he has not completed the reference yet. If I go back to home, you see now, just in that interim of being at that page to getting here, all 3 references have been completed. So if I click on edit, you see I come in, all of those are now green. If I click on details, I'll be able to read each of the reference items, go back to the all references. If I need to remove a reference, I just click on remove, and then you can request someone else to be your reference. At this point, all of the search and call areas are green, and so we're ready and we can submit our profile for validation. And so if I click on submit for validation, it comes up with a box. It tells us some information about this. At the top of this box, you'll see that you have a view draft profile. And now this is the profile that's going to be submitted, and you can go through and read. And so this is all of the information from where you filled out your profile. And go all the way down, you can see all of that information. In addition, if you want, you can download that profile. It will save it as a PDF to your system. It's building the PDF. And then I click save. And now if I open up that file, here's the minister profile. And you can print that out and do whatever you want, file it any way you want, either electronically or via paper. Once I'm satisfied with that, I'll go back up to home and I'll click submit for validation. And now I'm going to click the submit button. It's now been submitted. I click OK. And now the submit for validation button is no longer available for you to click. If I go into the minister profile, and let's say go to minister essays, okay. So all of this information, until it's validated, you can see here, when it's in validation mode, you cannot change any of this information. So the one thing that I wanted to show also is with the background check, once it's been completed, you can go into the background check and you can download a copy of that background check. So if I click on download background check, click save, and this is just a sample. So you can see that you would have your PDF of your background checks just downloaded to your computer. In addition, you also see, you can always continuously see what the status of your background check is, whether it's initiated or it's in process, as well as the date that it was completed here. So the report date here is December 14th. All right, so with that, the presentation is complete on how to use this portal, and we'll open it up for any questions you might have.
I didn't get any specifics directed to me, but I'm just going to read back some that I saw in the chat that might apply to other folks. Starting at the top, it should has the info from our current profile been automatically migrated into the new Engage system?
Yes.
Yes.
If you have any troubles, or if information didn't populate correctly, email us at profiles@ucc.org and we will get it sorted. We have the data. I promise you we have it. Well, Saran has it, but we promise it's there.
The one piece I would recommend everyone just take a look at, as Terry showed, make sure you go to the optional demographics. There are several new options here. We migrated race and ethnicity, gender and sexual orientation, but even some of those terms changed a little bit during this move. And there's several other new options here. The other piece I would highly recommend you take a look at is just double check to make sure that the references you want are actually in the system. That was one piece that was a little unclear when we extracted the data from the old system about which reference you would like. We have them all. It's just we've run into a few people that had a preferred reference, and then we simply just chose the ones that were most recently completed. So just double check that and email to profiles@ucc.org and we can adjust those.
One that was popular in the chat was how do I print my profile, both draft and final locked?
So Terry, let me jump in on this because there was a fair amount of bit of discussion. Terry showed the one place that you currently can view your profile and download a copy, which is when you go to submit the profile for validation and circulation. Elizabeth and I were chatting a little bit, and that is the ability to view a profile both while you're working on it or once it's in circulation is something that we can and will be adding to the system. So just check back in probably in a couple of weeks, I'd say, just with holiday breaks getting into the mix of our development schedule, and we should have some options available there.
Just to be clear, right now you can only see what your profile is going to look like in its final form after you've submitted it for validation, but hopefully in the next few weeks we're going to be able to print one that's watermarked draft so that we can look at it before we submit it for validation. Is that right?
I believe, yes, I believe that's the request. That there's some internal clarification about sort of at what state that should be available. And we'll work with the MESA team on that and make sure that it's we've got all the options available when they should be, and with the correct drafts and or watermarks and so on, to make sure that it's, doesn't look like a fully validated, ready to go profile.
I had a question about before I began the member and discernment process. I was a reference for an ordained minister. Is the profile that I created for that way back when the same profile that I would be starting as a member in discernment now, ready to get my profile together for circulation, or are there additional steps I should take?
If you completed that in the most recent system, so the system that launched in, I think, 2014, it will still be there. But if you worked on the system like before 2014, we do not have digital copies of this, like the third oldest system any longer.
I think it's the most recent one. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks.
I had a question on what browsers we need to use for the system. Like, do Macs need to make sure they're using Safari, or PCs using Edge, or are any of the browsers going to work to get full functionality?
Yeah, I can jump in on that one. Basically, if you can get online and hit Google or any sort of current website, you'd be just fine with this system. We're actually fairly Mac friendly, so we do a lot of work in Safari, Chrome, Edge works just fine, Firefox. If you want to get crazy out there, I think Terry actually uses Brave sometimes. But one sort of follow up with that. The site is also designed to be responsive to work well on a tablet or a mobile device. So you can at least go in and check and see what you've got, or make some small updates pretty much from any device that you'd be able to get online with today.
I went into the new profile last week, and I noticed that I had originally had 3 profiles. One was doubled, and one of my profiles was gone.
Do you mean one of your references?
One of my
doubled and the
references.
other?
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's no problem.
References.
Irene, will you just send that to profiles@ucc.org and include the name of the reference you do want included? It's a pretty simple fix, but if you email it, that's how we'll do that. And I put this in the chat. I need to depart because I have some family obligations, but I'm leaving you in the capable hands of Saran and my colleagues on the MESA team, Jeff Nelson and Daryl Ledwig, who'll be able to answer your questions for a little bit longer. Thank you so much for coming. When in doubt, if you have a question about your particular profile, please just feel free to email us at profiles@ucc.org, and we'll do our best to answer them. We try to answer them in the order that we receive them. So we appreciate you and all your work. So thanks so much. Take care, y'all.
Let's see. While we're waiting on any other questions, there was another one in the chat that said, who will see optional demographics if it's not in the profile?
Jeff, I don't know if you have any extra information to chime in on that. I believe that data is pretty much just used internally between MESA and CARD for demographic tracking. I can tell you, at least from sort of the technical end of the system, anything that you put on that optional demographics is not available for conference staff to view or search or circulate out to congregations.
Exactly. We use that for our own internal statistical measuring. So that's only MESA and CARD see that, and we use it for research purposes. And it is kept confidential.
Is there an ETA for when pronouns will be able to show on our profiles?
I can kind of echo what I think came through in the chat there. There is an area within the minister profile for sort of supplemental information, anything else you'd like to add in, which would be a great place to include that. My understanding is that offering a set of formal pronouns is fairly new between MESA and CARD. And so that is really kind of up to the sort of those bodies within the UCC to decide, how they want to modify and adjust the profile. If and when we get the word, we'll be happy to add that in to help everyone communicate clearly and accurately. But as it stands right now, I don't know if that's in the immediate work. So the additional comments here on your snapshot or supplemental information on your profile would be a great place to communicate that, say, to a search committee.
Someone asked in the chat, can you repeat how to select the correct preferred references?
Yes, there's not really an interface or a way that you can go in and sort of choose references that maybe didn't migrate correctly. We have all of that sort of on the back end internally. So if you will email profiles@ucc.org, what's most helpful is if you know the names of the 3 references you would like to use, we can go and then just sort of relink those. That can be done. We can do it on the back end, even if you were, say, actively circulating. There's no barrier to wait a 90-day window or to remove and revalidate, that sort of thing. So if you need to have your references adjusted from the migration, just drop the profiles office or the Mesa office an email, and we'll take care of it. The screen Terry is showing here is great if you want to go in and say take someone out and request a new reference, which he cannot do because his profile is awaiting validation at the moment.
Also, I'll go ahead and add a note of apology for those who have already tried to email the profiles office since last Monday. Even with 3 people keeping tabs on that account, some things inevitably fall through the cracks. And so if you haven't yet had your concern answered, please go ahead and send it along again, and we will certainly take the time to address your concern.
All right, well, I think that wraps us up for today. I appreciate all your time. We'll hang out for just another minute in case there's any late questions, but otherwise, have a great day and take care.